So we're now ready to actually start building something. First of all, I just want to sort out my windows just so that it's easier to see what we're doing. So I'm going to take my project tab and just drag it all the way up here. Right click on console, and I'm just going to close that tab, and that gives me this nice big window to work on. My size, snap value, I want to set this to about 0.4. That should be okay, 0.4 of a meter. Now my main camera, I actually want this to be a 2D camera instead of 3D. So in the inspector, if you want to set anything to a 2D camera, just change from perspective to orthographic. And now you can see that it's become just a kind of a box camera. So just a simple 2D camera. If you change the size, it just changes the size of the box. It's effectively like zooming in. Okay, so for this one I want to set the size to about 38.97, and I just want to change my position of my camera so that I can set everything up correctly based on values that I have used before when I was planning this project. So under my position, I'm going to set this to 20.4. My Y value is 1, my Z is minus 10. I might actually change that to minus 20. Okay, now I don't want to be able to see this sky in my camera, so I'm going to change from skybox to solid color, change my color to pure black. Okay, great, so that's set up. So now what we're going to do is create like an icon slot, slot where the icon can fit. So in my Pro Builder, just want to click New Shape. It's going to be a new cube, and I want the size of it. If you're not seeing this, by the way, just click on this little triangle. I want to set the size of it to about 10 on the X, 10 on the Y, and 0.1 on the Z. Okay, then I'm just going to shift and click, and that will then give me that cube. Okay, so in my inspector, I'm going to set the position of this to around minus 27.13 and my Z value to 0.3, and I want it to be 0 on the Y, so that when I look through it in the game view I can see where that is positioned. Now at the moment my perspective through my camera is currently on free aspect. Well, I want this to have a 1920 by 1080 resolution, so if I click that you can now see where it's based. Now we are going to make this UI layout a lot bigger than it's going to finally be on the screen, so that we can increase the resolution of it. Okay, yep, so that looks good. Now what I need to do is effectively just flip the rotation on this. So I'm going to take my Y and do minus 180. Okay, so it just moves it slightly over to that side so that all my values are now correct. Great. Now I'm just, you'll notice that you've got this little panel at the top that allows you then to select vertex selection, or these little points, edge selection to select the outer edges, or face selection to select the faces. Well, I want to select just the edge, and then using a shortcut Alt and L, that will select the entire face loop, which will select all the way around the edge. And if you're on a Mac, that's just whatever your shortcut for Alt is that you see there. Okay, it's just Shift Alt in my case and L to do that. Now over in Pro Builder, I simply want to extrude these faces. So we can see a little button saying extrude faces. If we click the plus, I want to set that distance to 0.3 on the face normal. So I'll click extrude faces, there we go. And then I want to click this face, hold shift this one, hold shift this one, hold shift this one. By the way, an easier way to do that, if I just click on one of those, is to do Alt R, or select face ring, and it will select everything in the ring around the edge there. And then I simply want to extrude those again, so it just pulls it out there. Okay, now before we go too far, I want to give this item some materials. So in my project, I'm just going to right click, create a new folder. Let's call it materials. Right click, create a new material. I'll simply call this one icon. By default, just want it to have kind of a simple grey kind of look to it, just a simple grey, no reflections, no specular highlights, so it's just pure matte. Now in my Pro Builder, if I click on Material Editor, you'll see I get this little window open. Now mine says loads of Pro Builder defaults, yours probably says none in all of these. So all I need to do is drag icon into Alt 2. Okay, now if I click on this face, I can then simply click this button and it will assign that material to that face. Okay, which is great. Now the outer part, I actually want this to be gold. So if I right click up here, create material, call this one gold. Now in my inspector, I can set a color. Now my gold material, I'm going to have this one as an hexadecimal value 896940. Okay, so we get that nice kind of orange look. The metallic, I want this to be about 0.51. And the smoothness to be about 0.635. So we get this nice sort of gold material. In the Pro Builder, open the Material Editor project and let's drag in gold into the next slot. Now I want to assign that to everything that is not grey. So to do this, just click on any face. In Pro Builder, make sure that we click Select by Material. That will select everything that isn't grey. And then we just simply click gold. Okay, and that has now been assigned. There we go. So now we've got effectively like a gold frame around it. Now, I want to click Edge Mode. I'm going to click on this edge and do an Alt L to select the entire loop. And I just want to pull back on the arrow key here. So if I just pull just back like this, it gives us this nice angular edge. Now I'm just going to go to Edit and Preferences, and one of the preferences with Pro Builder is the ability to have Show Handle Info. So if we make sure we check this, what it's going to do, it's going to display how many units we've actually moved in this section down here, down in the bottom right area. So if I repeat that again, so I'll do a Control and Z. If I repeat it, just watch this down in the bottom right here. Can you see those values? So I'm moving it by 0.10 on the Z-axis. Now I want to take all of these edges on the inside. Can I do an Alt ring? No, I don't want to do that. So manually select, so click, shift, click, shift, click, shift, click. What I want to do, I want to actually scale this in. Okay, so scaling using this. Make sure that you are on center and that you can use global, that's fine. So I'm just going to scale this in a little bit, and I want to scale it to about 0.96. And that gives us that really nice kind of frame to this. So if I now click on my game, this is what we can see. This is basically our icon slot holder. All right, it looks quite nice. So let's click on Cube. Let's change its name to Slot 1. Okay, now I need some more slots. So if I click on this, do Control and D to duplicate, or that's Edit and Duplicate, whichever you prefer. Let's change this name to Slot 2. And I'll click on Object Mode. Now I can manually move this if I want, or type in a specific value. I'll type in a value. Minus 16.4. Now you can see that we've got a second slot sitting right next to the first. Once again, Control and D. Let's change this one to Slot 3. This one is going to have a value of minus 5.52. So it's sat next to it. In fact, there's a slight gap there actually, so let me just click and drag on this just to move it a bit closer. About 5.55. Nope, 560. That's okay. Just a very, very slight gap there. That's fine. That's what I want. Control and D, and then slot 4. This one is going to have a position value of 5.27. Let's take a look. Yeah, got a little bit of a gap, but I might just reduce that gap down a little bit. I'm just clicking and dragging on here, by the way. There we go, that's pretty good. 5.2 is the value. Okay, so these ones are going to be the slots for the weapon attacks. So you can have up to 4 different types of weapon attacks, and they're going to sit in these slots. I'm also going to create some slots over this side that are going to be for the mana attacks, so any kind of magic attacks. So I'm going to take all of these and I'm just going to duplicate these. Control and D, and let's start with this one. So this one's going to be slot 5, I think, slot 6, slot 7, and slot 8. Okay, so for number 5, we're going to move this by a value of 39.27. It's going to move it over here. Slot 6 is going to be 50. Slot 7 is going to be 60.87. And I might just close that gap a little bit. Let me try 60.80. Yeah, that looks good. And then slot 8 is going to be 71.67. Once again, let me just close that gap, so try 60. Pretty good. Okay. Now at the moment they all look exactly the same. Well, I want the slots on this side to have the kind of gold outer frame. On this side, for the mana, I want them to have a silver frame. Okay, so let's sort that out. In the Pro Builder, or rather in the project, just going to click on gold. I'm going to do a Control and D to duplicate, or once again, edit and duplicate, whichever you prefer. Right click and rename. And I'll rename this as silver. Okay, the metallic and smoothness are going to stay exactly the same. All that's going to change is the color value. Okay, so for silver, this is going to be 848280. Okay, we've got ourselves a nice silver. Let's go to Pro Builder Material Editor, drag in the silver into the next available slot. Okay, so now in Pro Builder, if we click on the face, we can then select by material. Now make sure that you click on the plus and you make sure that you check this to current selection only. If you don't, it selects absolutely everything in your scene that is that same material, including all those other slots. So if this is checked, I select face with material, notice it will only do so on that one object, which is great. Okay, silver, do it on this one, select by material and silver. This one, select by material and silver. And then this one, select by material and silver. Okay, very good. So now in our game, you can see we've got our gold and our silver. All right, excellent. So that's the start of it. What we're going to do in the next video is put something here in the center. But before we go too far, let's go to File, Save As, and make sure that we save our scene. I'll just call this UI.